Hello there, you awakening wonders. While I'm away preparing for an extraordinary test, I have provided content, along with a wonderful team here, for you to enjoy during my absence. This series of two-part interviews are absolutely fantastic, and today's conversation, the second part of my conversation with TJ, talks about how in a community you can provide your own food, you can provide everything. How well is the culture working for you now? At this point, how often do you want to be in a mall or a multiplex or driving along or stuck in traffic? Wouldn't you secretly like to get out of this nightmare and into the garden? Here's the route out. TJ Vizio Day is an entrepreneur and founder of Axe Decentralized Real Estate, a company developing off-grid communities built around land ownership, regenerative farming and local food production. In part one of our conversation, we explored his vision for helping families become more self-sufficient, the biblical principles that underpin his work, and why he believes local communities can offer an alternative to increasingly centralized systems. In this conversation, we continue that discussion, looking at agriculture, economics, leadership, and what it takes to build resilient communities for the future. Back to the interview. The thing is now, is that they can't argue anymore. No one can argue that it's better to not eat food that's grown and reared where it's grown. And
Exactly.
Their ideas they're trying to sell are things like universal basic income and like meta universes. They're lying. They're lying now, and it's plain. But the thing that's interesting is that you do have, like in people like Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Oz in the HHS, you have people that are righteous, but they're still, they're surrounded, one assumes, by the kind of locusts and systems of Luciferianism that have always controlled government. The thing is that what we are told, and this is where they're going to get into some serious trouble when we start to tool up and arm up and get mobile and march in, is they tell us we live in a democracy. So if you tell us we live in a democracy, what you're saying, democracy is a synecdoche or a synonym for freedom. That's what they're saying, is you are participants in how America is run. Okay then, so then you won't have a problem if we say we're out, we're opting out. Oh, you can't use our facilities and our resources. No, we won't be using your facilities and resources. We're going to intertrade, we're going to grow. Then you're dependent on our defense. They will do anything to mask the fact that they want you eating toxic food, consuming toxic information, breathing toxic air, wearing clothes that are contaminated, for heaven's sake. So when this idea is the idea, everyone should do it. The only reason you wouldn't do it is if you are independently a billionaire and you don't need anybody else. And even then, and what do they spend all their time telling you? We're philanthropists. We've got the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to help people. Okay, well, help us by letting us have that land that you've just acquired. If your motive is truly philanthropy and not hiding your money and hiding your taxes and maintaining your position. So you're right. What needs to happen now, TJ, is to popularize this idea and you're already piloting the idea, and now you need to stay pure of heart, because you said you were going to explain to me what happened to those two people that got shazammed by the Almighty. And my assumption is that they were not being pure. They were lying a little bit, but that's what, one of the things that someone helped me understand recently with Saul versus David, that superficially Saul's disobedience ain't that bad, but his disobedience revealed his true nature. And with them two, Sapphire and Ananias or whatever they were called, them lot, their actions revealed that you can't have them in a community where people are of good faith. So and I know you are being very strongly tested more than than most people can stand. Like the testing that's required if you're going to be in that position is you can't fuck around. No. You've got to be totally pure.
You have to. And that's where I was like, it's not a joke. That allegory about Ananias and Sapphira is not a joke. So in 3 separate deals, when we were working with the landowners, and they were like, they tried to renege in some way, shape, or form. So for example, Little G Ranch, the first property that we did, we'd approached the person and we were like, hey, we'd like to move forward. By the way, most developers, their model is a pretty scumbaggy model.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty awful. Like, I'm not kidding around. So what they try to do is they look for the 3 Ds, death, divorce, and displacement. So they'll send out a mailer. This is most developers. They'll send out a mailer to an area, maybe this county, right? And then they're looking for people who own land that experienced recently a death, a divorce, or displacement. And then what they're going to do is, because that person experienced the death, divorce, or displacement, they'll say, I'll offer you 40% of the value on your land.
You're suffering. There's there's opportunity here.
Exactly. And so and they'll justify, oh, well, they were hurting, so it's 40%. It's not that bad. We don't do that. We go to people, we say, if you say it's $10 million, we go, okay, $10 million. We're happy to go and buy the product. We're not going to lowball you. We've never once lowballed anyone. So anyways, in 3 different times that we've done it, when there has been a reneging or like a, you know what, I'm not going to do this or anything like that, like from the actual like landowners
The vendor.
or the vendors, they have gotten sick almost instantly and gone to the hospital, had a change of heart, and then come back and been like, never mind, like here you go, let's keep going.
The Almighty is on the team.
I mean, like first time, what a neat like, you know, not like just like wow, like that was, you know, that's kind of specific. Then the second time, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Then the third time, okay, this is actually getting crazy over here.
And now for a paid advertisement from Rumble Wallet.
How much control have you got over your money right now in this second? None.
I want to know where my money is, and I want to know right now.
It's being controlled by the monarchy and the Rothschilds. Technology has changed everything now.
Technology.
And it's changed how money works. Crypto started as niche, but now it's going mainstream. Faster payments, more control, fewer middlemen. This ain't hype. This is where it's going. And getting started today is easier than you think. That's where Rumble Wallet comes in. With Rumble Wallet, you can buy Bitcoin, hold dollar-backed stablecoins, even digital gold backed by real gold, all in one place. Setup is simple. It connects with MoonPay.
On the moon.
So you can use your debit card, credit card, or bank account and be up and running in minutes. Start small, $10, $50, $100. It's not about the amount, it's about getting early and understanding what's coming next. And once you set up, you can even tip your fumble creators. I'm sorry, we're going to have to leave that as it is. Like me, directly. Do this now. Scan the QR code, click the link in the description, download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. Take control of your money and get started with Rumble Wallet today. While you're at it, head over to Polymarket where you can trade on the outcomes of real-world events, such as the price Bitcoin will hit in 2026, or even whether Bitcoin will go up or down hour to hour. Check out polymarket.com now. Do you think there's an obligation, say if we're going to do one together, pending? Obviously, I've got a trial in October, but there's a lot of things to get through. But
I could show you how to do it. We could make one here on the podcast. I'm serious.
I want to make one. I want to film the process. I want to make the process of making one a show. Do you feel that we've got an obligation? Because you'd be saying, right, participants, you know, what can you bring? You know, everyone's going to have to act style, put their stuff in common.
Yes.
And I've got quite a lot of requirements, actually. For example, I'm basically a hermit. I need to be alone a lot of the time. I need to pray.
Most of our people.
Right. That's what people want. My wife hates the idea. Anyway, like sort of but don't you feel also, is there I'm asking you this as a serious question, an obligation that we reach out to people that can't participate, you know, the widows, the orphans, like that we sort of go, like we sort of bring them in, I'd say, to toil the fields, potentially without pay.
I get what you're saying. I get exactly what you're saying. That's actually that's actually been an intimate part of my vision with all this. And it's, you know, I say my vision, but it's really the vision. It's not even mine. Like all of this stuff, you know, I don't lay any claim to it. It's literally like, it's like God's vision. It's like, where does music come from for Bach? You know, it's just sometimes the thing you just kind of like, I have no idea. It feels like just like this. I can't lay claim to it because even I'll sometimes be surprised by some of the stuff that, like a new idea or a new thing.
Yeah, where's it come from? Who's it come from? I know that a lot of Jake's music comes from collaborating with any Christian musician that he ever sees anywhere. He just approaches them. Yeah, like you sort of indeed. We have to sort of sit like, in a way, our faith is tested. How my faith is getting tested.
Yeah,
it's weird, right? Because obviously I've been.
Please tell me. I actually legitimately want to hear it.
Well,
I'm actually super excited. Yeah,
I mean, if you're like, imagine I'm actually not interested. I've given you some bacon. Shut your fucking mouth. Eat a sandwich.
It's just cool to see how we each are called to bear our cross, and it's interesting to see the different examples of suffering that we have. And a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, dude, I can't wait to just switch places with Russell Brand. Like, I can't wait to like all this. And it's like, no, dude, like there's stuff that happens that's hard stuff. You know,
and an easy ride.
And I know you've gone through different nonsense, different things from other people, and you're still going through it.
Yeah.
And I know my own version of that same pain of people saying nonsense stuff from me. Like I have to deal with it with the KKK. You have to deal with it with all sorts of other stuff. And so
I'm not going to sit here and listen to you badmouth the Klan. My chapter doing a very difficult job.
Yeah.
I mean, the laundry alone, getting those pillowcases clean. So what I was saying is that even though I've been spiritual all my life, there's a real difference in coming to Christ, and the challenge, the line comes in sort of staying kind of, how can I remain in faith that He's got this, like in trust.
Talk to me about it. You know?
Like how that presents itself to me is I keep thinking that I need to be in charge again. I keep thinking I need to take control. This won't happen. It's going to mess up. I'm going to get destroyed. I experience sort of quite a lot of fear. But what I can... But I recognise, actually, as a matter of fact, that when the way that I maintain that mindset is with a degree of self-deception and by listening to the accuser and listening to the names that he would call me.
Yep.
And also sort of rather less nobly than that, or rather less sympathetically than that, a tendency to take credit for the, I'll tell myself, for example, I really overcame the odds and I fought and I hustled, and it's only when I look back with new clarity and frankly humility that I recognise that the whole way I've been sort of carried and placed in opportunities, and things have happened and things have come my way and I've almost without fail used those opportunities for personal pleasure, personal glory, and some sort of reckoning, some sort of change was required, and by God it's been happening. But what it's doing to me is it's making me recognize that say something like this, I start to feel like he's for real. I feel like TJ's for real. This is good. This is good. Then I sort of want to think, how can I control it? That's basically what I feel like. How can I control it? How do I make it happen in a way I want? And almost, I feel it whenever I meet kind of good people. Like, no, he's mine, get off. I'm in charge of that. But really, it's tiring. It's too tiring. I've got to enter into a state of total trust. I think that He wants nothing less than that. And I reckon, this is what I reckon, that there might be a sort of a supernatural component there is a supernatural component that we need to develop a new sort of parabolic, if that's a word, language for, that we need to be able to, in the same way as he would have said mustard seed or move mountain, that we might need to say that there's an inner network accessible for a portal. If you know the code, the flow of that source will come through you. And it exacts such a terrible price, and it demands of you such sort of incredible faith. And mate, I just got to say, that obviously I'm aware that you lost your son, and you lost your son a month ago. Yes. And I'm listening to you talk passionately, and I see that you are a man on a mission and with a mission, and that you're in your mission, because to be able to talk articulately about things that are important, like in the food distribution, like ensuring that you can distribute eggs safely, or the quality of these various products. But I know that a month ago you lost your boy. And I level you. I mean, I'm going through a trial that's no joke. When my son has health issues, and so it puts me in environments where the mortality of children is something that I've had to consider. My brother Jake there's experienced things along those lines, and at least that's his story for him to tell you. And I've even when my dog died, sort of 6 months ago, it put a hole in me that that has made me register a level of vulnerability and pain. That in a sense means that only God now. How have you been affected, and how are you still going?
Yeah, so, it had already been just a very hard, 1.5 years of just testing on different things. Just with getting all these different pieces up and running. It feels sometimes with acts like everybody's looking in. A lot of people were voyeuristic with acts. They were just kind of when basically, how when Evel Knievel, he's going to go jump something, half the audience wants to see him, actually make it. Half the audience is watching, let me watch this thing just completely, crash and burn, because they just have no other feeling about it. That's what it feels a lot like with acts. Number one response from people is, "Oh, it's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. It must not be real. It must be some type of scam. It can't possibly be real." Then we came out with the actual franchise. Then we had the animals. Then we had the actual food products. Then the question was well, when are you going to build a house? And then it was okay, now we finally built a house. Oh, still not with all this stuff. It was really funny what with what had happened with Colty, and I'd actually just 2 days before that, I'd come back home and I was talking to my wife and I was like, I watched this podcast. It was Tony Robbins talking with Alex Hormozy, and they were kind of determining what he was going to do with his life and stuff. And I was thinking about I was just praying on the airplane, and I got this idea of Lord, I don't want to be the largest landowner or the number one entrepreneur or the richest person or all this stuff. I know that Solomon had asked for wisdom, but even that really didn't enough. I was like, if my Solomon level wish would be for peace, Lord. Yeah. I want a peace beyond all understanding, Lord. Truly a peace that lasts beyond all understanding. Because, at this point, I got my land, I've got my animals, I got my horses, I got my house, I got my kids. I'm good and all of that stuff. And I was still not in a place of peace, even while running all of these different things with Acts. Even knowing, okay, I've got a purposeful existence with the stuff I have. Most people, they go to a day job and they hate it. I don't even have that. And it was still just hard not having that sense of peace. The way I'm able to reconcile things that happen with Colty and all of this stuff is that it's kind of a lot like a meditation on the Lord and the peace that comes in, and to act from heaven and not from earth. What do I mean by that? I know that you've had different things talking about meditation and breath work and stuff like that. We're taught in meditation, for example, we'll sit there and you want to focus on your breath, tip of the nose, as the coolness passes the little ridge. You might be there and not focus on the other thoughts that might be passing by. Oh, I'm finding a thought. What do? The practice is when you notice you're off and you go back to the coolness of the breath passing through the nostrils. Now, in the same way, the peace beyond all understanding, knowing that the Lord has you on this thing. Now, there's an actual neuroscience of it. There's something called our window. Can I borrow that for a quick second? And it's kind of how I process some of these things. See, I rest in the word of the Lord. I'll tell you a little story on this, what's related to this. So our senior VP, okay, his name's Adam, and he's a great guy. But he actually went through AA, and he'd actually gone through, because he had an alcoholism problem. He'll tell you all about this. This was years ago. But, he's still an atheist, still agnostic. And one day we were talking, and I was just like, Adam, with all this stuff, just honest question, why? Why after all this, what is it that holds you back? This was back in February. And he was like, I got to be honest with you, TJ. The reason why is because I don't understand what happens to the little children. It's just messed up to me that God will allow little children to die. It's just I can't reconcile it. And I told him, I was like, well, Adam, I'm not going to speak anything into existence, but I'll tell you what. If something happens to my children, I'm going to still find a way to praise the Lord. I'm going to still see what is positive in that, and I'm going to still see that He is the great physician, that there's still something that is actually meaningful in it. And so Holt's passing was, it was an insane incident. Here I am. I run this company where ostensibly a lot of people know me for helping them protect their families by being able to buy these homesteads that are as protected as humanly possible. You're off grid. You can set up security systems. You have your own fencing. You have your own, all of these different things, right? And my own son passes away less than 10 minutes after I hugged him in my own driveway by his own babysitter, just bumped in the head. That's it. And I found him. And I could sit there and I could say, Lord, what the, you know what? I could sit there and the demons inside of me, the negative voices, they want to be, this is what they sound like. They want to be like, Lord, what do you have on me now? Don't tell me about your only begotten son, because my only begotten son's now passed away too. So get out of here with all of this. Yeah, it wants to go there to that. But instead, I'm able to rest in Him. So when I told Adam the first time, and it's the same thing that helped me out. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I know that Jesus says that heaven belongs to the little children. In fact, until we become like little children, we will not inherit heaven. And it's very, very important. I know that he sees things in ways that I don't. And the irony is, because with everything that happened with Colt, the only place that I can be in is go to a place of peace beyond understanding when I know that he's got me. The truth is that now that everything that I've done, no matter how purposeful acts is, no matter how much land I open up, and no matter how many properties, no matter how many people I help out, finally be able to move off grid and all this, and I will fight. I will fight as hard as I can fight. It's never going to bring my little Colt back. But I'm not going to let that be an opportunity to get me to stop, even though I face so many different things that would crush most people. Just month to month, our overhead to run this company, month to month, is about $200,000 to $250,000 just for payroll. Just for payroll. You add in the roads, the construction, all this other stuff, it easily gets into over $500,000 a month just to keep the lights on for this company. So if you're off by one day, 1 week, one message, one thing, one close, someone messes up, someone doesn't do a wire, anything else like that, you might from 1 week to the next be down $200,000, $500,000, and literally be sitting there. And I could sit there and go, Lord, that I'm aware of. Nobody else does what I do, does what we do. This is your company. I acknowledge you in all my ways. You tell me, you write in Proverbs that if I acknowledge you in all my ways, you will make my path straight. And this is not looking straight right now. And I will find that if I just pause and take a breath and just look at it and just consider for a little bit more, then he will help me with that piece. So I was going to say, here's kind of the neuroscience of what happens with it day to day. We have something called arousal theory, and it's not arousal like sexual arousal, okay? So it's arousal in terms of
Stop right there.
Yeah. It's more just like our window of kind of tolerance. So we all have a kind of window of stress, and we want to be making decisions in that window of stress. If we're pushed out of that window of stress, it's called hyperarousal, and that means that we're going to be just in a place of like, what the fuck? Like all of this stuff. And yeah, some of this stuff is to do that. And it feels like in running acts, like this long form meditation on the Lord, where I'm focused on the mission he has given me, and Satan and the enemies and the customers being Israelites will try to push and pull me. So you're like sitting there, focused on your breath, and imagine if someone's like tugging you on your arm, tugging you on the next thing, and you're just like, no, I'm going to focus in on this. So step one is not allowing myself to get outside of that window that I might have. That's part one, knowing I have the principles of the Lord to help me guide back and stay in this. I don't need to do this. A fool, I'm talking to a fool. Hey, it's actually, if I'm talking to a fool, that's going to be even more folly. Let me not go deeper into this thing. Let me not start arguing with all this other stuff. Let me not do that. So that's part A. Then part B, what I found is if I start acting in this window of hyper arousal, now I'm making really bad decisions. Now I'm really getting myself twisted in really a bad place. So I found that when I trust in the Lord, whatever it is that brings me back down out of the window of out of this place of hyper arousal, it's often a piece of wisdom from the Lord. Like it will be something, some new insight, some new way of thinking. Sometimes it will be like, oh, like, especially because I run acts, so sometimes feel like, oh, like this is probably how you feel about us, or like this is how you feel about me. Like if I, for example, have the employees come in and, you know, they're asking for money yet again, you know, for some new project yet again, that's another few, you know, sometimes I feel like if I sneeze, it's another $10,000 or $100,000 on this stuff. And I'll be like, dude, like you didn't come in, you weren't grateful, you didn't explain out for, you just came in asking for money on this thing. I'll be upset about that. And I'll be like, do I sound like that in my prayers, Lord? Oh my gosh, I actually do. I sound like that. And just, hey, give me this money right now. Give me this thing right now. And sometimes that'll bring me just a little bit closer to him, a little bit closer understanding these things. And then on the other side, there's hypoarousal, where it's a depressive state. And it's just the depression. It's a deep, awful place of just like, yeah, everybody would be better off without me. Like, yeah, this is just worthless. Like, everything I've been doing is completely useless. This is stupid. No one's listening to any of this stuff. Everybody's just addicted. They're going to want to just go back to Babylon. This is just going out into a void and forget absolutely all of this stuff. Just all of this. After what's happened with Colt, You see, I remember talking to my wife and I was like, babe, I think about separating out the good thoughts from the bad thoughts. And it's very clear to me now that if I wouldn't say that to you, or if I know for a fact you wouldn't say that to me about Colty's death, I know that that is a false thought.
Right.
I would never go up to her and be like, this is all your fault. You're such a crap mom. You weren't actually there. You didn't do that. And if she were to go up to me, you're such a terrible father. You didn't provide. You didn't do any of this other stuff, and this is your fault. You were just right outside of I would know that that's crazy. So if I'm not going to do that to her, she's not going to do that to me. Why would I do that to myself? And I've noticed that when I look at the voice that allows me to continue on with my fast, and I'm the third day into a fast, and it's just like, dude, just go get that, go get that Twinkie right now, or go get that cookie right now. You can go have that cookie, or you can go, and I know it's a thing that's like taking me out of it. I know, oh, that's the false voice versus the one that actually allows me to stay in that. It's the same one that, after everything passed with Colt, dude, of course I want to sit around and just like eat tubs of ice cream and just be like, F the free world and forget all of this stuff. This is all a joke. This is all ridiculous because none of it matters anymore. Like I could do that, but the voice that's like, no, instead, we're gonna get back on our workout program. We're gonna go and we're gonna do walks every single morning. Let's get up. Let's go do some weights today. And it's going to be really powerful. I know you feel like, what's the point in lifting weight right now? Well, let's go lift the weight. One of the things that I did specifically was I started doing walks, but I put on a 50-pound weight. And then I got to a 100-pound weight as I do my little walk around the neighborhood. And so I was doing it, and I got, from that voice, it told me, part of the reason that I'm having you, do these weights is because it shows your grief and it represents your grief. But think about this. You have put this weight on you and you are walking through the neighborhood. But what happens now that you take off this weight and as this weight comes off, you're going to be stronger. And so you're going to be able to walk and do things that other people can't do because you put on that weight. And in the same way, I sometimes see it as with Colt's passing, it's deep grief. It's heavy grief. It's really heavy. It's like, I would say it's way heavier than that 100-pound backpack that I use as I go through day-to-day stuff, but I also know that as the grief kind of goes down, it also allows me to be stronger when I talk to other people, when I talk to people about their suffering and understand a little bit more about the stuff that they go through and that we all go through with all of this stuff, and to not lose hope. And my hope with all of this, what I see it as is, Colty was a little angel, but I know that was his time, and I'm lucky enough to have had him. And I'm so happy to have had the times I had with him. That boy, in under 2 years, lived a greater life than so many people get to live for however long they might end up living through everything. And with the lessons he taught me and the grief that I feel, we're going to go to the next level. We're going to have new things, and it's going to help out millions of people, not just thousands. I see this as millions of people, and there's not going to be any quit from any of this stuff. So, sorry, that was a little long-winded, but it's just kind of how I kind of feel about all this stuff.
So you're a grieving father, mate. I call that, for me, that's either heroin gear or suicide gear. Like that's suicide fodder.
Yeah.
And anything that takes you there, I begin to understand the function of the suicidal thought. The function of the suicidal thought is you have come to the end of yourself. You've come to the end of yourself. This is all you can do as you. In my own experiences of crisis, which are different, what I've, funnily enough, been shown is that what you learn in crisis is actually a truth forestalled. Mm-hmm. Like that, we know what the condition is of life here, and we can place and if you're going to afford anyone this right, it's the grieving parent. we can place shoulds and conditions on what should happen. A father should never have to endure that. That's so sad. It's undeserved. It's pointless. There's a bazillion ways of describing it accurately and justly. And in fact, what I would say is that that's sort of precisely the ingredient that leads you into a new realm. That if, like you said, no matter what you do, no matter what is achieved, that pain has been felt, that's been experienced. This is where you are now. And you can now really, the only walk that's available to you is the one with him, the one with God.
It's the only choice. It's the only choice. And that is one of the blessings that I do see in this, because I choose to see the blessings in it. This has made it a hyper focus. Like I will say one thing that I have joy about, and that is that I'm only 32 years old, and I get to see with clarity something that people may live to 95 years old and never be able to understand. See, I now get to say, okay, I know what it's like to have a multi-million-dollar company. I know what it's like to have the land, and I know what it's like to have the horses and all this other stuff, right? And now after Colty, I understand, wait a minute, what I cherish more than anything are the tiny little moments that I had with him. It would be when he's eating yogurt and he had just yogurt around his face, or I'd be working in the office and he'd just like pop into the office, dada, or I'd be hanging out in the bathtub and I'd be really pissed off. Some customer said something that was just out of line, and I'm just sitting there and I'm taking a bath, and I'd be like, nobody come in, like nobody. He wouldn't care. He'd just open it up and just come right in. And I think about those moments, that's what stands out in my mind. And so it doesn't require some deep theological understanding. It's actually purely logical economic reasoning. We could have all the fiat currency in the world. We would trade that for gold. Why? Because the fiat currency is going to go to zero. The gold is going to raise up in value. If I had all the gold in the world, I would trade all the gold in the world for land. Why? Because the land has more actual useful value than all the gold in the world. I could have all the land in the world and all the things in the world, and I would trade it for what one thing? Just the tiny little moments that I got to have with my family and with Colty. Just those tiny little moments. It's when I was just putting on his diaper, and he'd be like, "Daddy, you're a beetle bug," and I'd be like, "No, you're a beetle bug," and he'd say, "No, you're a beetle bug." Just small things like that. So that's a fact, right? If I would trade all that just to have a little moment like that, now I can go through life for the rest of my life knowing to just look at those tiny little moments and to truly savor them, to deeply, deeply savor them. And ironically, it answers that prayer for what I'd asked for a peace that goes beyond all understanding. As I just go and I enjoy small little things, I get to see the little dog that might pee and, may be, licking up water, and just a small little moment of like, is that pee or is that water over there? Savoring that and just like registering that and knowing like, that's a taste of heaven right over there. All of that. I get to live the rest of my life enjoying that, even though I also get the glory of having a purposeful existence, one where I know it's aligned with the Lord. I know I can help people out with all of this stuff. And
one time this person told me this thing. You might get to see me strangle that dog, actually, and that'll be a heavenly moment for us all. One time this man, he said, but prior, in one of the earlier incarnations of my life, I was with a certain management group, and when that all broke apart, as always happens to people in my position, ripped off for a bunch of money, all that stuff. And I was telling it to someone who'd been in a similar position, who'd worked in music, and he said that he'd been mentored by this guy that was a gangster, and the gangster guy said to him, like, them very people that ripped you off for the money, they gave you the opportunity to make the money in the first place, right? And he's like, yeah, they did. And he goes, so at the beginning, when they'd said to you, hey, we're going to give you this opportunity, but down the line, we're going to rip you off, you'd have took that deal, right? And he's like, yeah, I would have took that deal. He goes, some of us, son, some people, they are willing to go flip burgers. If you want to play at the table where people flip burgers, no one's going to rip you off if you play at that table. But some of us, we're high rollers. We like to play at different tables. Exactly. Now, with your analogy of the economies of like fiat versus gold versus land versus true spirit, and like Emmett Fox says, that a human soul, you trade an empire for a human soul, because an empire is temporal. It's in the narrow bandwidth bandwidth of the temporal material reality.
Yes.
With the human soul, you're dealing in eternity. It's almost inconceivable for a human being, and indeed the only currency that's going to work for you is the peace that passeth all understanding, because now the only currency, and I mean currency in both of the forms, i.e. an electric charge, a power that can run through us, the only one that's going to work now is like that. All of those things are foreclosed for you. Not that you won't know joys, of course, but you will never again be free of that innocence is gone. That innocence was gone. Only Christ can meet you there. Only God can meet you there. We don't, it's outside of the world of reason, so it's therefore outside of the world of language is a reason system, an exchange of differences. There's nothing that can be said. I know that, you know that. But we are, I believe, being collectively and individually schooled for something that's important, and the people that are going to participate in this,
absolutely,
like it says in Romans, that bit, the groaning pains of the earth is groaning like a woman in childbirth for the revelation of the children of Christ that are going to be co-heirs with Him. Greater things than these shall we do. Like you're not going to no one's going to do that if you have the options. I'm see before when we were talking about me coming to the Lord, and I had a spiritual life before, and I had power and I had charisma, and very early on I recognized that I was on a kind of what I might call a sort of shamanic path. Like I knew that some their flow comes in me.
I followed your career, by the way, just so you know, I followed your career from I actually read My Bookie Wook when I was 13 years old.
Oh, that's so lovely.
So that was in 2007, I believe.
Probably you're a bit too young for that. It's probably created some damage.
And I grew up actually, I would say the opposite. It actually prevented some damage. Because I was able to read, and I was
not this way.
Exactly.
Go that way.
I was like, let me just not do that stuff. So I know some of the time periods of what you're talking about. So it's been pretty interesting to see the different versions and iterations and paths of growth and spiritual things that you're talking about.
He says, Jeremiah, that the living water, we are participants in the living water, but don't make cisterns, don't hold on to it. The same as the Exodus story or the Genesis story earlier of holding on to it. Don't hold on to it. Don't hold on to that which is meant to flow through you. Like, don't put your light under a bushel. Not only is that I don't think it just means the modesty. Don't contain your light. Don't try to hold your light. It's not yours. It isn't yours. It's radiating. He, even though sharing the qualities of God, did not see equality with God as something to be sought. It too, I feel like, so the mistake and the error I made is I was aware of giftedness, but the giftedness I thought was for me to get stuff. I thought I'll get stuff. And,
same for me.
And it never worked. It never ever worked. Now too, I think the potter, that we can't say, the clay cannot say to the potter, this really hurts. Stop it. And I was thinking actually, that what I felt is this kind of inward molding of a clay that's difficult to detect, and all these things are parables and analogies, and we're not obviously talking about literal clay, but it's still hard, isn't it, with the limitations, our epistemological limitation. It's difficult to envisage what he might be saying, but it seems to me that he's talking primarily about consciousness is our resource. That's where we participate in the living flow. It's accessible to us now. He's with us now. He's with us now. I just thought, and I don't know what pottery was like 2,000 years ago, or whenever Isaiah was written, or whenever Paul was back referencing it as he later did, but I do note that when the clay is formed, whether it's into a vase or an ashtray or a mug or a cup or whatever, the thing that it's being the potter's wheel spins. You're spinning at a high frequency, high frequency when you're being molded. And when we were talking about meditative states before, that some of us, my prayer is that as many of us as needed will experience whatever it is, even though it is so painful even to hear it recounted. Lord alone knows what it's like to go through it. Experience what is required for us to get to the frequency that we need to get to. You need to be spun at a high frequency. If you're going to go up there, you need to enter into that if we're down here in the gross, the material, what the Ayurvedic folks call the Kali Yuga, where everything is heavy and matter and body, like down here, I think I've sort of given it a good go and tried out, what are the things that might work, might not work. I've messed around with all that stuff. And like what happened when Christ came, he's a man like Jake, like you, like me, and he loves us all the same and would die for any one of us. So all of that thing that I've been doing, trying to sort of accumulate and separate and specialize myself, that sort of just got like
I totally get it.
Now I can only exist in in His light. I can only exist in His light.
I completely get it. And so, number one, it's funny that you mentioned the clay analogy, because that's also like what Adam was made out of. He's made out of clay. He's molded, from dirt and from clay. Like that's what it even is from the first place. But then, similar to that, another analogy is besides clay, it's also that God refines us. And so when you see what it takes to refine silver and to refine gold and refine precious metals, like you have to superheat it, and you have these impurities that bubble up to the top. And so sometimes you might feel like, my goodness, like these impurities, like, oh gosh, this is terrible. But these impurities, they come up to the top out of ourselves, and then they can be scooped up. Like we live in this crucible in this world, and sometimes I flip back and forth. I'll be thinking about different things about, like, my goodness, like what exactly is this? Is this the crucible? To kind of tie a lot of these pieces of what you just said about this material reality, and from what I know with Acts, right? I don't want anybody to watch this podcast and think that what I'm saying is that because the goal of what we're doing is to build heaven on earth. That is very literal. I literally mean the goal is to build heaven on earth. That's what I want to do. I want to be the construction company that builds heaven on earth. And I want to inspire other construction companies to be like, you know what, forget this, forget apartment complexes and multifamily apartment construction. I want to build heaven on earth. I don't want anybody confused that with me saying some type of like, oh, like because you bought Acts, like that's some replacement for Christ. What I've kind of come to in my understanding with Acts and how I see this is, rather than thinking that like buying an Acts property, owning your own land with your own animals and all of this stuff that people dream of, rather than thinking of it as like that's the end goal, actually what I found is that having the homestead and having this stuff is it actually molds you towards it in a really powerful way. So the easiest way I can compare it is marriage, right? So like if you approach a marriage like, oh, when I get married to this person, all my problems are gone, and it's just like we're all good now. Like this is all good. That's a very toxic mindset with the marriage. The reality is iron sharpens iron. You're going to have different things that come up, and it's through the interaction of you two together that you're going to both be able to grow closer together and closer to God. The closer to God you get, the closer together you get, and that's beautiful. What I believe, and there is scripture to back this up, so it's not just like me just taking stuff out of context, is that the actual practice of stewardship itself, stewarding stuff to prosperity, it is, in addition to the Bible, it shows you many of the mysteries of life. Like, how interesting is it that when we go to Genesis 1, like, what are those first words that God said to man and woman? I just think about the context. So, like, it says right there, okay, so he forms man and says specifically...
Take your time. I'm in no position to judge. You've all seen the clip.
All right. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, I mean, he's not going to mince words. These are the first words he's going to say to man ever. You just, okay, I just woke up. What are you going to say to me? Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground, right? Or be fruitful and multiply, right? I've been really kind of thinking about this idea that like the reason he did that isn't just because that's your purpose. He's also saying when you do that, it's going to all explain itself. Like when you take on the joy of like managing these livestock, which, by the way, for example, like managing Wagyu are very dumb. They will trample over any electric fan. They don't care about getting zapped by the pain. No, they don't. They will just trample right over. Managing the pigs, Ibericos, like they just will go right out. You learn, oh my gosh, like managing this chaos. Wow, like is this what it's like for us, Lord? Like, is this what it's like when you see all these different things and you realize all the things you have to manage and you have to get into this place? So I kind of talk to people about, rather than thinking of these family compounds, because a lot of people, they'll be like, that's my dream, that's my end goal, that's my trophy. Rather than thinking of it that way, instead think of it as like, okay, this is like a practice I'm going to take up for the rest of my life. and it's going to be really beautiful to have this practice. If they go in thinking TJ's going to do the farm and the ranch and the family compound and all my troubles are gone, no. You're going to have the farm and the ranch, you're going to have the family compound, and you're going to have a whole new set of problems. But you're going to want those problems rather than the other problems. I'd rather take the problems of, here with my mom on the family compound, and she just has to go and say that thing, rather than like, let me find what retirement home to put her in.
Yeah.
I'd rather deal with like freaking the pigs got out again than, okay, let me go over to the grocery store. All they have is artificially pumped up pork that I have to go out and eat. We're going to have problems, but I'd much rather those problems. And I believe that he wants us to do it. I mean, it's just logical. Like, he created all things according to their kind, okay? That means that they're formed for a specific reason, for a specific purpose. Birds do what? They fly, okay? Spiders do what? They weave webs. Okay, he gave us thumbs, and he placed us in the garden to what? To cultivate and keep it. We are made specifically to have our own estates, to have our own ranches, to tend to these animals. We're made for it. How much psychological damage do I have to do to a bird to convince a bird? If I had some new program that was like, hey, birds, like, guess what? Like, you could actually flap enough and you could fly, and then all the birds go, that's too good to be true. That must be some type of scam. That's impossible. Or what do I have to do to spiders if I had a web weaving program and I was like, I'll teach you how to weave a web in 7 days for the spider to be like, I can't do that. That's what people sound like to me when they're like, oh, this is impossible. It's too good to be true. No, we were made to do it. And in doing it as a practice, we come to become closer together. We come to be closer to him, and we begin to know more of our purpose and know more of our capabilities and what is actually possible. And it's beautiful. It's very, very difficult. And some days you're going to want to quit, and you're going to want to say, this is freaking not worth it. Like, my goodness. You know, what kind of entrepreneur goes on a podcast and says, it's sometimes not going to feel worth it? But you know what? Yeah, sometimes it's not going to feel worth it. But then, on the whole, when you look at all the memories generated, it's amazing. When I think about the times I got to spend with Colt walking out there, when I think about the times that I've had a big, huge argument with my wife and I'm like, forget this stuff. And I go out and I just walk on the land and I just get to just sit there, look at the flowers and look at the sunset, how amazing that is. The times that my daughters get to go and look at the flowers and just enjoy and pick the little flowers and stuff like that, like how worthwhile that is. You know, even his burial, like how amazing that is. Like it's a privilege that I get to have it. And I know that's almost sick. Am I sick for saying that? A privilege to get to bury my son? Because that's terrible. But it's also something that I cherish so deeply of like, wow, that's really, really special. And so I know we've got to start wrapping things up here, but I wanted to say this, you know, in relationship to your book. May I for 2 seconds? In your book, you relate the AA 12 Steps program to what it might be like in having a relationship with Christ and coming to know the Lord. And you mentioned these 12 steps. Step 1 is honesty. Step 2 is hope. Step 3 is faith. Then we have courage, integrity, willingness, humility, love, and discipline, right? Now, perseverance, spirituality, and service. Every single one of those things are going to come out in you as you begin to steward land, as men begin to learn like, oh, wow, like there's stewardship of this land and like, wow, I can protect my woman. And it feels really good. Like, I think a lot of men need to learn what it feels like once again to feel like, oh yeah, I'm actually protecting my woman, protecting my children. It feels really good to not provide by just making money, but to provide by saying like, no, this is actually food that I grew for you and you get to enjoy it. Like, it's a big feeling. In running Acts, I thought that if we just got things right, this was my stupidity. If I just get it right, if I finally just have like one of the houses built out where people can see it, like, and we have the houses built out, but if they could just see it, they'll finally get it. And I realized like, it doesn't really work that way. And I really thought about it. And then I was reading your book and it hit me. It's because people are often in step 1. They're not actually admitting their powerlessness to an addiction.
Yeah.
Our society has a deep, deep-seated addiction to the comfort zone. the Illuminati do not need a massive prison program. They just need 5-minute cities and to make them really, really convenient for people. Before I'd started Acts in college, I was tasked with writing a 5-page paper about any topic. I decided to write it about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Ended up writing 75 pages about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what I wrote about in that paper was that if you look at the needs, we have a need for just basics, right? Food, water, shelter, then security, then relationships, then our self-esteem, then actualization. What is given to us by society are simulacra of what is necessary in every single one of those levels. So for food, rather than real food, we're given artificial food. And then subconsciously, we're like, I don't understand what's off about this, what's off about all this, but we're just addicted to it. And then when it comes to security, we get our security from our wage slave jobs, where we have security from big corporate who pays us this meaningless thing that we don't actually want to do. And then in our relationships, we are given by society social media. Go ahead, little pleb. Just keep scrolling, little pleb. You know, I was going to bring up with you, there's a very interesting study on the relationship between addiction, specifically to heroin, for example, and relationships in society. There's a whole thing called the rat park. Basically, rats given the opportunity to choose the different addictive substances or just interact with the other rats. When isolated and alone, they will choose the heroin every single time. But when put in rat park with other rats to go enjoy, they're not going to do the same thing. When we are isolated and given this simulacra, this fake food that pretends to be otherwise, and these fake sense of security from our fake jobs with a fake meaning that goes absolutely nowhere, and fake relationships with social media, and then we destroy our self-esteem by telling men to not be men and to tell women to not be women, and then we destroy all actualization by making it so that the most creative people are only focused on what? Mammon? That's all we're ever doing with our time and our intelligence, just chasing more and more and more mammon. Then what happens is we prevent ourselves from actually taking the necessary actions to actually learn resourcefulness and learn to stand up on our own 2 feet. But I believe strongly, and I did back then when I wrote that paper, and then I thought through, well, what would that look like? And then eventually there was Acts. I believe that there is an opportunity that is in alignment with the vision that God had for us. He never meant for us to be little, tiny, pathetic, powerless, little slaves that whine and complain about every single thing. He meant for us to grow in Him and rely on Him every step of the way and to learn it. And we have an opportunity, if we actually do it, to speak of one mind, of one language by the Holy Spirit that resides in us, the same Spirit that rose Jesus from the dead. And we have the ability to create a new Eden, where by working together, we can go out, we can acquire the best land in the world that would otherwise get snatched up by these elites and these investment funds who absolutely hate us. And we can turn those lands into a wonderful opportunity to grind against difficulty as we learn to settle issues with each other, and we learn to set up these resources with each other, and we start taking back our basic needs first, where we have our own food and our own water and our own good clean air and our own sunlight and our own grasses that we get to enjoy. And then we take care of our security needs, and we take care of each other with our own cryptocurrency system, our own way of bartering and trading with each other. And we form real relationships, not these fake relationships, but real ones, where community is not just a digital experience, but a real felt physical experience with a real physical hug. It's different when you do that. We could have had this conversation over Zoom, but it's more intense and real when it's here and in person. And when you do that, whether you're a man or a woman, it feels good and it restores our esteem needs. When as a man, when you go, man, I don't know anything about taking care of a cow. Like, this is embarrassing, to like, I know how to take care of a cow. That feels good. And when you're like, I don't know how to shoot a gun, and then you're like, I know how to shoot a gun, it feels really good. And when you give your children food, it's like, my goodness, this is amazing. And you can't replace it. There's no dollar amount that could possibly replace that. And when that's happening, you start self-actualizing and you have the time and the wherewithal to think through new ideas, you can really create something so powerful. And that leads us to the final level of what Maslow's hierarchy actually was supposed to be. We're lied to. We only think it stops at self-actualization. There's another level, which was transcendence. He was made fun of by the other academics. And I believe that this was my work. This is what I used to talk about when I first thought about this. It's kind of the flip in reverse. So if you take Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you reverse it, and instead of taking in needs, you let it go. So you flip self-actualization, you think of it as like, let me let go of this like perfectionism and like needing to be like the most self-actualizing thing ever. Like instead like, no, dude, like maybe I've got some mom issues and I should like work on that stuff, right? And then if you have esteem issues, it's like, let me let go of other people's opinions about what they had to say about me. And instead of like relationship needs, you're like, you know what? Let go of like this like need to constantly like take in love. Actually, like, can I show love to others in my actions as a verb? Instead of security needs, you start thinking like, I don't need this like constant like certainty for every single thing. I want to fight for something so worthwhile that it might be uncertain. You know, I might get Charlie Kirked. I might have someone hate me for this. And then we see the ultimate example by Jesus Christ. You know, you have those basic needs that you have. He let go of that too. He was able to really focus on that. When we enter into that realm, rather than by doing it by way of gathering materials, but instead we take the elevator past the original levels of Maslow's hierarchy, instead have the Spirit take us to another level where we're focused on that letting go so that we can focus on the Lord as our source of provision. I believe that is when we begin to build the real heaven on earth. So it's not about the physical, it's about the spiritual and the mental and the place that we could be in. It's the place that we can be in these relationships. And that's the world that I want to live in, at least for now, until I'm eventually rejoining my son and I'm able to hang out with him and I'm able to just frolic and joy in that timeless state with him.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together. Thank you for your presence in this conversation.
Thank you.
Pray, Father, for the reconciliation of Colty and his father. And we pray for peace now in this time, this outside of time. Lord, we know eternity through you. And Lord, we know love and feel love through you. Lord, it's you that inverts all pyramids and triangles and takes us beyond reason. It's you that shows us relational love. It's you that provides the formula. In your endless poetry, Lord, you establish meaning. In your wisdom, Lord, you include us. God, we pray that the people that need to see this will see it. And the events and acts that need to take place are brought about, Lord, through communion between us, with you, under you and through you. Lord, may we receive everything that you intend for us, and may you comfort TJ and his family. Be with them, Lord, and give them the strength that they need as they continue this walk and this mission in your name. Lord, show us how we might participate, and how you would include us in this endless grace. We pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Nice. Good work.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
Hey, remember my book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days, is out and available now. If you don't want to pay for it or can't afford to pay for it, click the link in the description, download the audiobook for free. But you can also buy it if you want to buy it. It would certainly help me because having a successful book is a good thing for me right now. But you'll love the book. It's good, you know. It's good. Get it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments and the chat. Well, thanks very much for watching the show. We will be back next week with another 2-part interview. In the meantime, if you can, stay free.